So I just talked to my brother. It's December 1st, 2019, and I was laying in bed when I woke up, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, if he made it on his journey, well, if he took, the hypothesis was, or is that, that if he took a journey and has the, quote, testimony of Jesus Christ, as it states clearly in the book of Revelation, then that means that Christ, his second coming, has a testimony, and that means it has a story, and there are certain components to the story, including, there's a woman, there's certain locations in the world, that an individual, when they go on their hyper-religious journey, if that person has, they also have to have a Jewish blood to be tied to one of the 12, I guess, the tribe of Judah, which is one of the 12 tribes of Israel. So they got to be Jewish, they got to go on a journey, it's got to involve New York, New Orleans, France, etc. But it also has to wind up where the individual has power over nations. And what that means is they have a tie to someone who is just like the Jewish person is on a journey to resurrect Christ, they have a tie to someone who is who will be on a journey to resurrect Muhammad. Okay? And because Christ is the first fruits, he goes first, or his story is captured and then reported / told first in the form of a little book with video footage. Well, then the next person to go in order would be Muhammad. And when you think about it, it makes sense logically, because you'd want the number one, without saying religions, without evaluating religions on any other characteristic aside from head count, Christianity has more heads than Islam. However, it's kind of almost neck and neck at this point. And when you think about it from a standpoint of God taking the reins of control of the earth, i.e. by, having other people, additional people tell additional stories or additional testimony, then it starts to make sense that the next person would be Muhammad. And that means that not only when I was on my journey, or as I'm on my journey, that it winds up with the individual, the archer hero, I won't say his name because he's the hidden imam, but I know who he is, and I know that he's the perfect candidate to resurrect Muhammad. But I had to have a relationship with him from childhood. We had to be friends. Well, when I woke up this morning, I was like, wait a minute, my brother was on a journey too, where he was checking off boxes without even knowing it. South of France, New Orleans, New York, felt like he was in a movie, etc., etc. But that meant when I woke up, I was like, wait, that means he would have had a friend that was the candidate to resurrect Muhammad too. A different candidate. Now, I never knew my brother to have any Persian friends, ever. But because the name of the game is priests in kings, i.e. chess, with his own life, that means that as he was taking steps forward in his journey, all this shit was pre-planned and laid out. He just had to identify it and tell the story. So his story would have wound up with a friend who was also Persian. So I woke up and I was like, oh fuck, I'm gonna ask him if he had casually ask him, be like, did you ever have a Persian friend? Because for the testimony of Jesus Christ to hold water, that he would have had to have had a friend that was Persian. So I go outside and he's smoking. I said, hey, did you ever have any Persian friends, like Iranian friends? And he looks at me and he goes, well, yeah, actually, in elementary school. Really? Who was he? Oh, his name was Michael. Michael M. He said his last name, I won't say his last name. My brother didn't know who he is. I was like, oh yeah? He goes, yeah, we were friends in 5th and 6th grade, right before we moved to go to a different school district in a different city, just adjacently north of our childhood, our grade school city. And I was like, oh. And he goes, actually, he moved the same year as we did. I was like, wait, hold on. So you were going to school in a different city, but then when we moved as kids, he also moved? I said, did he have a brother by chance? Because I know my Persian friend, who I met in the new school district, he had an older brother, just like I have an older brother. So we kind of, we mirrored each other. Well, because my brother's older, I assume what would make sense is that his friend would also be the older brother. So in even though my brother's testimony is the testimony of Jesus, like checking off these boxes, it's still customized to him in his life. So in my life, meeting my friend who was a younger brother, like I'm a younger brother, that's customized to me. Well, my brother who's older, his Persian friend must have been an older brother. So then their lives would be parallel. So I said, well, did he have a brother, or did he have any siblings? Thinking he must have had a brother, no one else. Yeah, he had a brother. Was he older or younger? I'm thinking he's probably younger, just like, he probably had a younger brother, just like you had a younger brother, but I didn't say any of that. And he goes, yeah, he had a younger brother, but he was like 2 or 3 years younger. I was like, perfect, okay. Now, why wasn't he exactly 1 year younger? Because my brother didn't finish his journey. But God had already, and what that tells me there is that even though there were similarities, it wasn't spot on, i.e. his friend didn't have a brother who was 1 year younger, just like my brother has me, who's a year younger, because it didn't need to happen. There was, because my brother was going to stop his journey, then there's no reason to give him the perfect Muhammad candidate or Mahdi candidate as a friend. And anyway, I said, well, what happened? He goes, well, when we got to the new school district and we were being, walked around, he and I were being walked around by some like orientation student showing us around. He's like, the orientation guy was kind of nerdy, and I was becoming, what he's saying, my brother was saying that he was becoming friends with him. And his Persian buddy who was there, he's like, what the hell are you doing, man? You can't be friends with that guy. He's a fucking dork. And my brother's like, and I had to make a decision as to who I was going to be friends with. My Persian friend from grade school who transferred with me, or the nerdy guy. And he's like, I went with the nerdy guy. And then that goes back to who is worthy. No man is worthy to tell the story, the testimony of Jesus Christ, because of a reason. Like, that's an example of why. Because Jesus Christ wasn't a fucking total nerd, or he wasn't a nerd. He was a cool guy. So either way, when my brother then wound up going to college and then eventually law school, and he became less nerdy and started partying like, Jesus would have, as it relates to my testimony, then, it was on him to say, all these things, I feel like I'm in a movie, I'm like traveling around, all that stuff. It would have led him eventually, once he unlocked Revelation, it would have led him to Islam. And he would have seen a tenet of Islam as that the Mahdi, the resurrected Muhammad, arrives with Isa or Jesus. He would have said, do I know any Persian people? And he would have gone back to his friend Michael and said, wait, no, that's weird, because Michael, we were friends, but then we also both left our grade school district at the same time and also transferred to the new school district where we started. And then click, wait, he had a younger brother, click. And instead of the younger brother being 3 years younger, it would have been adjusted. It would have been a totally new reality. How do I say this? All the steps, had he kept moving forward, he would have noticed that everything synced with that guy. his younger brother would only have been a year younger, etc. And then he would have contacted his friend, been like, hey man, what the fuck, like, check this out, and then blah, blah, blah. But my brother stopped. Although his version to resurrect, without knowing it, his journey was on route to resurrect Jesus. Basically to get the burning bush or whatever. His version of it. But he gave up. And he even wound up fucking going home, like where he was living with my dad and then living with my mom or whoever. But yeah, I'm not sure how long he lived with my mom, but maybe he's there a month. But he fucking stopped. And the idea was to go and stay with one of our parents and start putting this shit together, piecing this stuff together behind their back, to write it down in a fucking cogent book, and then fucking put it online, let the world read it as he reconnects with Michael, his buddy, his Persian friend from grade school and middle school. And then, boom, now you've got Mahdi. Once Mahdi gets in the frame of mind, boom, Mahdi gets a burning bush, confirms the process. But then, as Mahdi's going through it, because Mahdi sees Mahdi is, Mahdi fucking recruits all of his friends or family or whoever, just blasts the message and says the whole world, you're going to resurrect someone else too. But my brother stopped. My point is, God had it all fucking set up for him, but he had to keep going forward. And because the differences between his Persian friend and my Persian friend are great, because I didn't stop. So I don't just get a Persian friend to resurrect Mahdi. I get the actual fucking Mahdi. And he's the guy of all Muslims in the entire fucking world. My friend's not even Muslim. He's born into a Muslim family, just like I was born into a Christian family, but he doesn't identify as such, just like I don't identify as such. And the idea is, he would have found that he had the perfect Mahdi. But he stopped, so he didn't need the perfect Mahdi. Thus, all of the effort and orchestrating that God would have had to do to create the perfect Mahdi in his life via his friend Michael was reallocated elsewhere, because it was unnecessary with my brother, because God is omniscient and knew that my brother would stop. But that doesn't make my brother bad or anything. I couldn't have figured this shit out without his story. And the fortunate thing is, even though my brother was incapable of writing a book about his journey, at least one perspective of it was documented via my mom's book, which was published earlier this year. So that's kind of how that works. And then the whole, I guess Muhammad's fucking genius for having forecasted coming back with Jesus or whatever. The way that God solves for that, it's like the lion comes back, not Jesus, not the lamb. And the point is that Muhammad was smart in that he knew how much he struggled his first go around. So he knew that when he came back, that he would come with Jesus, because it would make the process a lot easier for both of them. And God, looking at that, based off the fact that I do know the perfect Mahdi on earth, God obviously endorsed that by putting that person in my life, just like he tried to with my brother. My brother then said, he was like, well, I also had other friends, like I had a Turkish friend, and then I had a whatever friend, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, but Turkey and whatever other country, he said, they don't have written into their constitution the idea of Mahdi appearing with Isa or Jesus. Really, as Christianity shows, it's the lion, because Mahdi gets the keys to the fucking kingdom of an entire country. Not that Mahdi wants that responsibility, or not that Mahdi wants that, and because he doesn't want it, doesn't want to be Mahdi, that's exactly why he's Mahdi. Just like I don't want to be fucking Isa, that's exactly why I'm the lion. We are servants doing a duty. So, there you have it. That's where I was like 80 hours. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, how things change.